Hi everyone, my name is Ken and I'm here with Eric and Diana, and welcome to Sunday Brunch. This week we thought we'd mix things up a little bit. I'm going to actually interview Eric because Eric and Diana have recently returned from Operation Grizzled Moose. And for those of you who follow Let's Camp S'more on social media, you might have a pretty good idea of what that is. But Eric, why don't you explain what Operation Grizzled Moose is to the uninitiated?
Yeah. So for my 50th birthday, Diana planned a surprise trip. And there's some nuances within it that we'll explain as we go. So Operation Grizzled Moose, I had no idea that it was called that.
Well, we told you a little bit before the trip, but early on, that was the secret code name for it.
Yeah. And so obviously we had shirts made. I have a hoodie with the Grizzled Moose on it. And I had no idea where we were going. It was a complete surprise. I did not know where we were going until I got to the airport, just before we got on the plane. And Diana used our laptop and would do searches on Vancouver. Spoiler, we did not go to Vancouver. She was doing searches on Vancouver, so all of my targeted ads that came from using the internet was for Vancouver. I thought we were going there, and it turns out we weren't. So Operation Grizzled Moose is the Eric from Let's Camp S'more's 50th birthday trip.
Awesome, and a surprise.
Absolute surprise.
To the end. And
absolutely flabbergasted.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I credit Diana for being able to pull that off.
Yeah.
Now,
Thank you.
Now, a little bit more specifically, so you find out about this trip,
Yeah.
and you're at the airport, and you end up going to where?
So the trip, the highlight of the trip, the big point of the trip was Lassen Volcanic National Park in Northern California.
Wow.
It's someplace I wanted to go. My undergraduate degree is geophysics, so I still like volcanoes and stuff like that. So that was the trip, but that wasn't all of it. We ended up in San Francisco for a number of days where a number of family members congregated, just a perfect storm. It worked out. And so 5 of 8 of Diana's siblings ended up in the same house at the same time. So our daughter got to meet cousins she had never met.
Oh, great.
We went to Lassen. We went to Burnie Falls, and we can talk about all of these specifically then.
Sure.
And then we went to Eugene, Oregon to see my oldest son, and we camped up there along a river. And then went out to the Oregon coast, Turtle Rock, and then down to Camp Klamath in Northern California, and then back down to San Francisco and back to Central Illinois.
Wow, it must have been a beautiful collection of locations, especially on the West Coast there.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I mean, for the camping enthusiasts, of course, I'm sure there was some camping involved.
Yeah.
And I believe you guys were even able to get an RV out there.
Yeah.
Why don't you explain that?
Yeah. So we flew into San Francisco, met up with the family, had a really good time there, and then we rented an RV out of northern part of the San Francisco Bay Area, and started driving north. Got about 4 hours north. And the sensors on the rear wheels for anti-lock brakes went out. So it was not safe to drive through the mountains. So we ended up having to switch RVs in Redding, California. But the RV we picked up there did the rest of the trip flawlessly. So yeah, it was all camping, but in a Class C RV. Normally we travel in our pop-up, as everybody's seen on the blog and other places. Mm-hmm. But we picked up Class C, and even though, so it was a Sprinter, Mercedes-Benz Sprinter Class C, even though that like stranded us, I liked it so much, I'm probably going to get one.
Really?
Yeah, it's really neat. It's pretty swank. But yeah, so it was all camping in a Class C.
Wow, that's great. So when you went to Lassen,
Yeah.
Did you stay at a state park, a resort? Did you boondock? What was the camping experience at Lassen?
So at Lassen, we went, are we talking about sponsorship in this one? Does it matter?
We had some sponsorship on the trip, and we stayed at Lassen RV Resort
Yeah.
And the fantastic owners there, Phil and Jasmine, were very welcoming. Their beautiful campground.
Yeah, so we stayed at the Lassen RV Resort, which is maybe 20 miles away from the actual national park.
Okay.
And we stayed there with them. Great time there. Excellent facility they have. And then we thought about spending the night in Lassen National Park in their campground there, but instead we went over to a place called Burnie Falls, and that's a state park in California. And we stayed in that state park and had a very real state park feel. Very. I guess there's a difference between like a commercial campground and a state park.
Absolutely.
Although that Lassen RV park, the first place we stayed, really felt like a state park, but it had full hookups.
Full hookups.
And they weren't like
sewer, everything.
People weren't crammed in on top of each other, so it was really kind of the best of both.
There's a lot of gnats. That's why we keep swinging our hands. So then we ended up staying at Burnie Falls State Park, and the cool thing about that is, you should look this up. It's a volcanic formation, so the rock is very porous. So instead of the water just falling over the top of the falls, it actually squirts out of the rock. It's really cool. I mean, even we said, you gotta go over there, water squirts out. We're like, that sounds neat. And you get there, you're like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing ever. And then we had gotten there like in early evening, and we ended up getting pretty much the falls to ourselves. There was 2 people fishing, but otherwise we hiked all around them. We were the only ones there, and 2 fishermen. It was great. Great stay. So yeah.
Well, cool. So after Lassen in California, you went up to Eugene, Oregon. You met some family members. But what did you do with the RV? Were you just staying in a driveway? Did you go camping again? What was your stay in Oregon like?
Yeah. So in Oregon, we picked up my son after work, and then we went to Casey's Riverside RV Park, and
that's about 45 minutes southeast of Eugene, where our son lives.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's up. It's up along. There's a reservoir, and you drive up along this reservoir, and then you get in. And when Riverside is no joke, you're right on this river.
I think it might be one of the forks of the Willamette River, but it was gorgeous between the mountains, and it's all wood. Oh, it was so pretty.
Yeah, and so we stayed there, and the cool thing about there is they have an ice cream machine, and it's $1 a cone, and maybe we spent more than a couple of dollars on the ice cream.
Somebody had lots of ice cream.
It was actually my birthday, so.
Well, it was the day after your birthday.
Happy birthday!
Your dad's birthday, but we had no cake or anything on his birthday, so the next morning.
Right. So the next morning, I had ice cream for breakfast.
Makes sense. That's a logical.
And then from there we went over to the coast to a place called Turtle Rock, and and then back down.
Okay, and then you ended at another place in California, no? At another camp?
Yeah. So we ended in
Klamath.
Camp Klamath. And Camp Klamath is really neat. It's on the coast, but you don't feel like you're on the coast. There's a little bit of wood between the campground and the coast.
About a mile in.
And you walk or drive down. You don't take your RV down there. There's nowhere to turn around, so only cars go down there. But we walk down, and there's this point, and there's a Native American ceremonial site there. I didn't touch it. I didn't take pictures of it. I've seen plenty of movies to know you just leave it alone, right? But then you go around this point, and there are sea lions, like probably 50 of them, all laying on this dunes. So many sea lions, and then there's a few of them feeding right in the surf, and you wouldn't approach them, but you could get within 20 yards of them. And so we got some pretty cool pictures of sea lions, and there's just people out there fishing, and the sea lions were fishing. It was really cool. That was at Camp Klamath.
Yeah, you had to kind of walk down this. We saw that Indian ceremonial area, and I was leading, and I'm like, there's a trail. I'm just going to go for it. Like, I don't know where this is leading. And all of a sudden you come out, and this beach was amazing. It was like hidden. You didn't know until you
it was around a point, and you had to kind of go through some woods, this tiny little trail to get around the point. So it was really cool.
That was the highlight of going there.
And you guys had good weather for most of the trip, or any weather stories?
Yeah, we had it was 100.
Okay.
It was 100 degrees, 103 in Inland Valley,
Sacramento Valley.
And so when the RV, the first one we had, needed maintenance, we were able to find a replacement very quickly. But we're swapping all the stuff that we had loaded in the one RV into the other RV in this gravel lot, and it's like 100 degrees. And so, that kind of every trip we've learned. We did take a trip 9 years ago to Alaska and back in a 36-foot RV, and we learned you have to stay flexible. Stuff happens on the road, stuff breaks. You got to stay flexible, and so
Getting
this was just
upset and stuff doesn't really serve any purpose.
Right. Yeah.
You're just going to be stressed out.
So that's what we did. We just, all right, we're just going to roll with it. It did alter our first night plan. We ended up staying at just a little tiny RV park in Redding.
It was just like a parking lot, but they had a pool.
Yeah.
And we were...
It was 100 degrees and they had a pool, so bonus.
9:30 at night,
Box
we're hopping
checked.
in the pool.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Like,
Are we going to shower? No. Pool.
Pool. And it was just the three of us in the pool by ourselves. It was,
It was
so
pretty,
nice.
pretty good.
Great. Well, obviously the trip has given you guys a lot of memories, and that's what good trips do, good or bad, but memories.
Yeah.
And basically, tell everybody like what your favorite part was. If you had to pick something to repeat,
yeah.
you can only repeat one thing. What would that
Right.
be?
Well, I'll answer that two ways. One, my favorite part.
We arrived in Alaska 9 years ago today.
9 years ago today,
Stepped
we
our
got
foot
into Alaska.
Yeah, I was thinking we were right about
Crossed
there.
it.
Was it
Poker-
cooler there then?
Poker
It was.
Creek.
We entered the United States at the northernmost border crossing.
Land crossing.
Land crossing.
Land crossing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Poker Creek
Alaska.
in Alaska. And
The Yukon Territory.
we went there and we asked them to stamp our passport because it has a big elk on it, and it's the only stamp
It
with
was really cool.
an elk for the United States. So that was neat. And so, but yeah, so favorite parts. So my favorite part was that I was so utterly surprised. I had no idea. I was actually flabbergasted. I had heard that term used before. I had never experienced it until that moment during the reveal in the airport. I had such little idea where we were going. We could have sat at the gate. You know what I mean? It's like, now boarding for San Francisco. I'd be like, whatever. I had no idea. So that was my favorite part, was just how utterly surprised I was and how well Diana did in just coordinating it all, getting it all pulled together, maintaining the surprise, not a secret, but the surprise, maintaining the surprise for so long. And then obviously all the people kind of coming into San Francisco, this perfect storm of people like, well, we had a thing, but we'll extend 2 days and we'll get, kind of all came together. But as far as like the camping part goes, I would go back to Klamath. I would absolutely go back to Klamath. Those sea lions were really cool. They have a all-you-can-eat salmon barbecue, and it was just, and the guy who owns it is just like a real positive character. He had like set up like a bus tour guide, and it just.
We just didn't have enough time there. We would
Yeah,
like to
yeah.
spend more time talking to
Sure.
him. We only spoke with him briefly, so we didn't get to interview him at all because the time.
Yeah, he
was
had
cut
somewhere
short.
to be, and then we had somewhere to be,
Right.
So as far as camping goes, I would go back to Klamath and that region. Another thing, so that's not our last trip out to Oregon and Northern California. We drove through a little state park in Oregon on our way down to a place along the coast. It was called Humbug Mountain, and it was just this quaint little state park, and you could look down the freeway and see the campground down there, and I was like, oh, that's the place I want to. So we're going to make it probably sometime, I don't know when.
We'll probably
but-
spend a whole summer
Yeah.
going from Northern California up into British Columbia and
Yeah.
stopping wherever we want to stop.
and going specifically Humbug Mountain, because that was really cool. So
Excellent,
those are some of the
excellent.
things. Yeah.
Well, that would be the best thing, is that it encourages you guys to take another trip out there and see more of the sites. And
Yeah,
that's
we
great.
had more time. It was a lot of driving and short time each place, but it was really well spent.
Yeah,
Worth it.
and that's how it is when you're like on a vacation versus when you're semi or even full timing in a rig.
Sure.
Is that when you're on vacation, you have, okay, I got 2 weeks off work. I got to literally pack in as much as I can, and so we end up doing probably more driving than I like, but that's part of the show. When you want to get 5 places in, you're going to have to drive, and so that's part of the show. I am looking forward to the time when I'm retired from full-time employment, because then if we got someplace and it's like, we really like it here, you just tack on another day, 2 or 3 or however long, because you don't have hard deadlines like your job or something. Not that jobs are bad, but
despite those deadlines, you're still able to go.
Oh yeah.
And if that's if that's the trade-off for being able to go,
and
it's worth having to deal with.
Please, nobody feel sorry for me. I'm not suffering. I have the type of employment that allows my vacations, and not just one. I take multiple vacations a year, and I am fortunate and grateful for the type of employment I have that allows that. Mm-hmm. And so we've got another vacation coming up in the middle of
in 11 days.
Yeah, we're leaving in 11 days
trip.
And it's another RV trip. This time it's out east instead of out west. And so when I say, don't feel bad for me, because maybe, just maybe, I'm living the dream.
It sounds like a good dream. Yeah. And well, we look forward to hearing about that trip, and maybe I'll be around and be lucky enough to interview you for that. And appreciate you taking the time. We normally don't hear from you, so I thought it would be a good idea to listen to Eric yammer for a little while.
Yeah, and so the dozen of you who follow us on YouTube will recognize Ken. He was our very first Sunday brunch. He's number one.
Right here in this spot, this campsite.
And it was a year ago. Just over a year ago. So, so if you're newer to Sunday brunch, scroll down to the bottom, find number one, watch that, and it's literally where it started. And we're having a ball.
Now we've had,
there's so many nats.
Probably 300 views total of the whole channel.
So many.
So many.
But here's the thing: in the future, when we have thousands of followers and people are digging back through the archives, Ken's where it started. Go back there. So people of the future, those of us in the past, send greetings. So.
It's been a fun ride, and I hope to be a part of many other Sunday brunches coming up.
Yeah.
And
oh no, you are. You're one of the core camping groups. So.
Yep. Well, hopefully our love for camping shows through a little bit, and we'll keep these going as long as we can.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again, Eric and Diana.
And we'll see you next time on Sunday Brunch.